Assalamu alaikum, inshallah you're well guys. So a lot of you who passed your final exams back in December will now be becoming members of your respective accountancy bodies, and officially you're now chartered accountants, so well done. And this, along with the fact that companies normally increase their recruitment in Q1, Q2, and most people will get that New Year's resolution, that new year, you want a new job, you may feel like there's a perfect storm brewing for you to go ahead and leave your current role. And sometimes what can happen is you can get cold feet or you can be a bit undecided. So inshallah, today I wanted to talk about some of the signs that you may have at your existing workplace which indicate that it's time for you to go and move on. The first sign I want to talk about is what I call the I don't care attitude, and there can be many examples of this. A common one is turning up to work late constantly. And when I mean turning up to work late, I'm not talking because you've had a lie-in after a late night. It's because you're dreading going into work. You're just going through the motions. Work isn't something you're enjoying at the moment, so it's not something you look forward to. So subconsciously, it's having an impact on you turning up to work on time. Or another example could be is that you're now prioritizing other tasks ahead of work. So work becomes the least priority. And when you turn up to work, you just want to do the bare minimum. You want it to get to 5 p.m. and do the least amount of tasks to justify a day's work. You're not really interested. Firstly, you are results driven. You wanted to do the best that you can do. Now, you're not really bothered. You just want it to get to 5 p.m. Another sign is that your focus or perspective has changed. You're focusing much more on the short term. So it comes to Monday, inshallah, you want it to go well. It doesn't, that's fine. You're going to focus on Tuesday instead. You've lost track of your long-term plans. When you joined as a graduate, you wanted to be a manager within 5 years. You wanted to eventually become a partner or a CFO. But you don't care about that anymore. You're just taking each day as it comes. Your career, learning new skills, development, they've all taken a back seat. And when that happens, when you stop focusing on yourself at work and stop seeking any extracurricular activities to develop yourself, to improve yourself, then inshallah, that's a big sign that it's time to go. You've fallen out of love with what you do. And just focusing on that a bit more, it could be that you find the work getting a bit repetitive, you're working on the same clients, the same projects, and you're losing interest. You're not learning anything new, and you're quite stagnant in your career. I can't stress to you enough, guys, how important it is that you continuously upskill and develop new skills, especially for trainees, because those of us who are managers, directors, partners right now, we can sort of get away with it. We can rely on our people management skills, and inshallah, our direct reports will be responsible for most of the upskilling. We will be responsible for managing and delivering on time. But if you're a new trainee, there's so much pressure for you to learn data analytics, VLOOKUPs and pivot tables. They are now seen as the norm. Those skills won't help you stand out. Now it's all about Power BI, Tableau. Have you learned those skills outside of your day-to-day job? Because honestly, take it from me, guys, they definitely help you stand out. So if you're a new trainee or someone who's quite fresh in their career, make sure you're constantly upskilling. And if you're not getting those opportunities at work, or you're not being supported by management to upskill maybe outside of work, then honestly it's time to go, because that could impact future progression in your career. So even if you love your team, guys, your manager is the best manager you could have hoped for, you really get on with your team, you don't see yourself working elsewhere. If you're not learning new skills, that's a major red flag. Remember, guys, people can always move on, but the skills you build, they stay with you for a lifetime. Another sign, which is more common now than previous years because of the new working environment we find ourselves in, is that your work isn't fitting around your personal lifestyle. So if you want to work from home one day a week, no, your manager says you can't do that. Say you want to leave early because you want to pick up your kids from school. Your manager says, no, you can't do that either. That's a sign that it's time to go. Remember, guys, we work so that our families and ourselves can have a better life. And if we're not part of that better life, then what's the point? You're only working to survive, and there's no fun in that. Nowadays, a lot of organizations offer flexibility because they understand the importance of family life. I've even seen some roles which are 100% remote. You don't even need to go into the office. So in that situation, yes, the grass is greener on the other side. I'm also going to talk about being detached from your team, and there can be a few ways where this can happen. The first way is where you're no longer receiving support from your line manager. So firstly, those weekly catch-ups that you used to have, they're slowly disappearing. They're now becoming monthly catch-ups. The discussions around your career progression are disappearing. They're not currently happening anymore. And you're starting to see your colleagues being promoted to assistant manager or manager level, whereas you're still a senior. This could be a major sign that you've fallen out of favor with your line manager. And this is important because if you don't have your line manager support, it's very unlikely that you'll get promoted. So now, where you were potentially looking at getting promoted within the next 2 years, that could very easily become 5 years because your manager isn't backing you. So inshallah, if you feel like that's the case, I'd advise you to cut your losses and leave. The second way is that you feel that you're no longer part of the team. You're starting to feel a bit fake by asking questions. How are you? When you don't really care, you don't want to attend team socials. It could be that you no longer have an interest in your colleagues' personal lives, right? You're no longer asking them how their families are doing, how their weekend was, and you've lost interest. It could also be, guys, that you're quiet in team meetings. Even though you're quite senior and you're responsible for leading parts of the presentation, you start doing the bare basics because you're losing interest. In my experience, guys, this will happen as a result of not liking the work you do. Because say you have a bad manager, that's just one person. You're not going to take it out on the rest of the team because you have bad experiences with one line manager. And in that instance, you'll probably have lots of people that you do get on with that you'll still have a good relationship with. But if you don't like the work that you do, you may find it's the cause of why you're alienating yourself from the rest of the team. With this one, guys, I'd always say be mindful of the impact that you have on others. As an example, say you're a qualified accountant, you're quite senior within your team, you're going to be responsible for your trainees' development, the development of others. But if you don't care, what can happen is that you're not only detaching yourself from the team, but you're not taking interest in your trainees' development as well. So you're not only impacting yourself, but you're impacting others at the same time. The final one, which I think is a major red flag, no one should put up with it, is taking rubbish. What I mean by that is if you're berated openly, you're the victim of clear favoritism, you're being treated differently to others, and unfortunately these things do happen because sometimes work can feel like a popularity contest, then honestly leave. No ifs and buts. Just offer your resignation, it's time for you to move on. It doesn't matter how much you're getting paid, because if you're not comfortable in your own skin at work, that can impact you in a much worse way. But be careful, guys. This doesn't mean that the first time you're criticized, you offer your resignation and say, I'm at the door, right? Constructive criticism is good. If you're making a mistake, only a good manager will pull you up on it because they're interested in your development. They want to see you progress. Whereas a bad manager will let it slide and think, well, it's not my problem. I'm not bothered if that person gets promoted or not. I'll let them carry on making the mistakes without telling her. Just something to be aware of, guys. You shouldn't run away at the first time you have a difficult conversation. But if it's clear that something is wrong, then honestly, it's time to go. Inshallah, I'll leave it there, guys. But let me know if I missed anything out. If you've been in the workplace, what were the major red flags for you that contributed to you leaving your employer? And as always, if you have any questions or queries, please feel free to comment below or message me on Instagram.